Today, I'm here with Suzanne James from Suzanne James Global, who is a female success and mindset coach and a certified NLP trainer. So I don't know much about NLP. I'm sure some of you listening will know about it. Some of you may not know so much about it. The first question I got for you, Suzanne, is, first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Lovely to be here, Rob.
Thanks for coming. So the first question is, what is NLP? I'm going straight in with that one.
Straight in with it. Do you know what? So I'll give you the technical bit. So it stands for neuro-linguistic programming. And it's such a sexy name, isn't it? You know, it really tells you such a lot. I quite like to think that it's like a user manual for your mind. You know, when you get your, you used to get little manuals sent with your technology stuff, didn't you? And you've got an instruction manual. And that's one thing we didn't get when we kind of were born, you know, and that's what I like to say that NLP is. It's like a user manual for your mind, you know, how we do what we do. So the great thing about that, once we start learning about how our mind works and, you know, how we create the sort of the behaviors and things, if something's not working for us, we can actually then change it because we've got the kind of, you know, the programs, if you like, that we can actually change. So that's like the simplified definition, I suppose, of it.
Perfect. And I want to get into it a little bit, like how that can help with things like what we specialize in. So things like emotional eating or drinking, or, you know, making better food choices or exercise choices and things like that. But first of all, I want to know, actually, when did you learn NLP and why did you go about learning that?
Yeah, so kind of just, you know, going back a few years. So I used to be a HR director. I had a, you know, a senior corporate job. You know, I was always all over the country. I'd got a young family at the time, got 2 young children. And, you know, I was literally, you know, running around all over the place. And I was finding that actually, even though on the kind of the outside, I was a confident person, you know, inside, I was probably like one of those ducks, you know, paddling their legs furiously under the surface. So great exterior, and, you know, but, you know, I was always comparing myself to others. And, you know, I also at the time was suffering with migraines. I was having migraines every couple of weeks. And they were literally getting, you know, interfering with my life. And, you know, I was quite stressed, but I didn't realize it. I just kept on going and going and going. I'm that sort of person that, you know, don't listen to anything, you know, don't listen to my body at all, even though it's probably giving me all of the signs. I just kept going and going. And so actually, I mean, it's going back now 10 years, you know, so actually I came across NLP and thought at first that, oh, this is going to be a great tool for me in my HR profession. You know, it's all about coaching, you know, other people to be the best that they can be. And I thought this would be excellent. So I kind of went along out of interest, didn't actually realize at the time that essentially NLP is a personal development tool first and foremost. So yeah, it's great that it can help other people, but it's predominantly a, you know, a transformational tool for yourself. And I hadn't realized at the time that I'd lost my mom in 1997. And I hadn't realized actually that I'd kind of been repressing all of the emotions from my mom. And actually that's how they were showing out in my life, as in that was why I was getting the migraines, because I was kind of pushing these emotions down. And actually that was kind of like the first start of it. So I actually then went on a NLP training course, and that was literally the start. And I actually haven't had a migraine now in over 7 years. So from a health point of view, that's, you know, amazing, you know, and actually then from me, it kind of then gave me the confidence, one, to get up to the top of my career, but then also have the confidence to go, do you know what, I've got this burning passion inside of me to kind of do this with other people. And that's what I did.
That's an amazing story, because I think the number of times you were saying things and I was like, right, I've worked with someone who's had that issue, they've had that challenge. So many people we work with have struggled with things like migraines. They're in very stressful careers. they're in a very similar position, and a lot of them have had family traumas and lost people and things like that. So I know you said it helped you get over the migraines and things like that. This may be something that's difficult to answer in a short space of time. How do you think it helped with that, or what did it change for you?
I think the first things it actually changed is to actually, become aware of what's actually going on in our own, inside of me, and to actually acknowledge that. I was, again, my way of dealing with, and this is probably relevant to a lot of your clients, is that I just pushed it down and almost went in denial. I went on to a look, that's in a box, and I'm not ready to open that box, kind of thing. And actually, it's, all of our, again, once you start sort of delving into the kind of the science part of NLP, we realize actually that the way that the mind works, it creates thoughts, which creates, the feelings, and, it results in our behaviors and our actions. And when we actually can understand actually and become aware of those things, we can then actually start changing them. And actually, for me, I did something called timeline therapy. So, and that sounds a little bit way out there. I know that sounds a bit way out there, but it actually is one of the most powerful, powerful transformational techniques out there. And it really got me in touch with the emotions and the sadness that I was still really harboring. And it was, that can be a 10-minute process. And actually, within one session, I felt like I'd literally lifted off, the weight off my shoulders. And I think that's one of the key things is you do need to do that deeper work sometimes. We keep plowing on, and sometimes we have to stop, take that step back and say, what's really going on here? And that's what it allowed me to do. So the timeline therapy technique was just phenomenal. And within one session, I'd literally release some of that deep trauma that I'd kind of had. But then to have that proactive techniques and those toolkits that I can use to when I find myself going into it again. So that's the great thing, I suppose, about NLP is it's a very practical tool. So if I'm kind of going, do you know what? I'm about to do a podcast with Rob today. I could do with a bit of a confidence boost. I've got a little toolkit that I can do before I come on and, give me that instant boost of confidence. So I think there's a combination of kind of clearing up the stuff that's been holding you back from the past, but then giving you really practical steps to keep moving you forward in a well-being type of way. So it's not about push. It's actually about going in flow and ease, because we're not meant to struggle. That's the bottom line. We are really not meant to struggle, but that's what we tend to do for ourselves. We put ourselves, through it all, with our limiting beliefs, the comparisons, and all of those things are really things that we put on ourselves. So we're not meant to struggle. So if we've got some techniques that can actually help us get back into that flow and ease, it makes everything a whole lot happier.
And I know it helps you with the migraines, obviously, at work. A lot of the people listening are probably in employment, again, similar high achievers like yourself. How did it help you? I know you're doing your own thing now, but when you were in employment, you were HR director, how did it help you in that role, do you think?
Well, I think it's, again, becoming aware of where we self-sabotage ourselves. And I know that for me, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. And, again, I think it's about that awareness, but also those strategies that you can actually overcome them. And one of the surprising things, I think, for me is that something like imposter syndrome, even the most famous, what you would consider the most successful people actually have the same type of thing. Emma Watson, Tom Hanks, they're all people that have imposter, and you look at those in absolute disbelief, don't you? So it's kind of hard to then put it into your own perspective. But I think knowing that actually is something where your mind is playing tricks on you. And so actually, even those types of things, helping with those, giving me those confidence boosts. Obviously with my job as well, it was, in HR, interviewing other people, recruiting, developing people. And it's essential there that I think that, I can pass on my own knowledge as well and develop other people that way. But one of the other things, I suppose, is that I was part of quite a male dominated environment. And, again, that peer pressure for me, I felt as if I had to do 200% effort, put in 200 hours a week, over and above everything, because I felt as if I was, competing with the guys. When I was, HR director, I was the only female on a board of 9. So, I didn't actually celebrate any of my achievements, I suppose, until afterwards. We're not really great at that.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of the things I think actually is, becoming aware of where we are self-sabotaging, and, and the imposter syndrome is really a story that we've told ourselves. So celebrate all our successes as well is really, really quite important.
Definitely. I think I've heard that a lot from a lot of our members and our clients, saying how they have kind of felt like they have to go the extra mile constantly to compete with their male colleagues, and to be seen, they have to put even more work in, even more late nights, push through when they're feeling ill or feeling exhausted and stressed, and it can become a bit of a vicious cycle. I think I see that with a lot of clients.
Yeah.
Did it help you to find a better balance in your career, or was it more just to manage what you were already dealing with?
No, I think it absolutely, because again, within NLP, it's also about that kind of that positive psychology. It's not about that kind of that toxic, positivity that we've literally got to be, even when, rubbish is happening, we've all got to put this brave face on. It's really, again, about having, a holistic approach to our lives, so that, we don't have work in one, work-life balance. It's actually about having our life the way that we want to live it. So it's having that health, the happiness, the well-being, and that positivity through all areas of your life. And I think that's a really key part of things, that, even down to like the language that we can use to ourselves. Before I was, I've always thought I was a positive person, but I didn't consciously do it. It was, and so I think it's one of those, when you can get consciously aware of, your habits that you want to have to create the life that you want to do. I think that's so important. The language that we use to ourselves, we're our own worst enemy on that, in that, you wouldn't speak to your best friend how we often speak to ourselves. And I think that was one of the core things that I found, is that actually just simply changing your language from that negative to positive can have absolutely, don't underestimate those small little steps that we can do. And they can really help within work. And that was certainly something that I really found useful to me, is changing the language that I was using with me, but then actually how I was talking. We use a lot of things like should, or I need to, or I ought to do that, or oh no, I can't do that, don't do that. It's all of those negative kind of obligations type language. And when we can actually start doing that, we can really affect something, phenomenal actually within ourselves.
Yeah, we talk a lot about language in our program as well. Interestingly, I can see the overlap now. So we talk about the should, and the language almost puts us in that like victim position, and then the one sort of empowering. So what kind of, you've obviously worked with lots of people now with training them in NLP as well. What kind of results have you seen in other people who have gone through a course and learned these techniques?
Yeah, I mean, and it ranges, and like I said, I initially want to say it's fundamentally a personal development program. So, I have people that have lost weight, because again, when you can actually get the mind and body working together, that's really, really useful. So if we can, if you've had somebody that's a yo-yo dieter, for instance, if they can become aware of where they are self-sabotaging, that's really useful. So lots of people within my programs have lost weight. Whether that's been their conscious objective in the first place, it's been a byproduct of it. So there's that. I've had, it's a bit, I'm kind of going off a little bit on a tangent, but, some of the techniques that we use the kind of the pictures in our mind, and we call it like to dislike. It's a bit of a weird technique, but one lady, basically it's changing something you like into something you dislike so that you don't have it anymore. It's really good with food.
I was going to say food or alcohol. That sounds like
food or alcohol. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a fantastic technique to use with that. So one of my ladies actually is, and she trained with me 2 years ago now, and we've actually, interestingly, I was only speaking to her last week about it. She kept eating salted caramel ice cream. That was her big thing. And actually she hasn't touched it in 2 years. So really simple stuff with that one. So yeah, I kind of went off a bit on a tangent with that one, but it was only because I was talking to her last week. So I thought that was quite useful. But, again, it's also about career progression. So I've had, people that have then, ladies within my program that have then gone on to promotions, asked for more money. And, because they've got that inner confidence and belief to go in and do that. I've had other people go off and start businesses, go for director roles that they just didn't think were possible, as well as really improving their whole family life, because again, I think that's really key as well, particularly if we kind of think we're super women when we're moms and we've got to do everything. And one of the even from my own point of view, NLP was something that I went with my children as well. So helped them with their exams. My daughter has dyslexia, so we've got strategies. She's got strategies to help her with that. So it's really a whole life kind of, experience, improving relationships. Had again somebody that had just, it's a bit of a kind of one of those again, but she hadn't had a partner for a couple of years, did the program and literally went on her dream date and got married, so just things like that. Had somebody that and I'm not saying I'm confessing to anything medical here at all, but I was also coaching a lady that had been trying for a baby for 4 years, and within 3 months she got pregnant as well, doing this type of work. So I think it's one of those that your results will only ever be hampered by yourself. So I kind of one of the key, and you mentioned it about sort of the results and kind of that empowering beliefs that you've got, taking responsibility for your own actions. That's a core part of NLP. And I think, one of the things that we always stress at the beginning is like, open yourself up to possibility. Whatever areas are within your life that you want to improve, it's within your possibility. It's just some people just don't always then know how. And that's, again, NLP is very solution focused, so it gets you to the place that you want to go.
And it's interesting, as I hear, it's like we focus on 3 things in our programs: exercise, nutrition, and mindset. And we always say, like, if the mindset's not right, it doesn't matter. You can have the perfect program, the perfect structure. You're not going to follow through with it without the mindset. And that's why we talk about it. But sometimes, you need to focus on it even more to then get the result you want, as you said. And a lot of people hold themselves back, right? That's kind of the key thing, right? I think most people are capable of much more than they think they are. And so it sounds like it's all about getting them to achieve their full potential, which I know is what you specialize in, right?
Yeah.
I do want to go out on, this is kind of a limb, but I think it will come back to NLP as well, because I watched a very interesting video you put up about your experience of menopause.
Yeah.
In how was NLP or the other kind of training you've done around confidence and self-belief, do you think that's helped you get through that difficult time?
Yeah, and and again, and when I was always, like I said, confident. I've been used to being in a senior corporate position. When I suddenly started having anxiety, which was one of my kind of the first sort of signs, I was completely thrown off, totally thrown off. Even with all the tools that I had, it kept throwing me off because I was a bit. It caught me just left field. And so it wasn't until I was started to think, this is all a bit weird, actually, now to do it. And actually, the first thing the doctors, when I went to the doctor, the first thing they said, well, oh, let's just put you on antidepressants. And to me, that just was not an option. For me, it was like, I didn't do that when I'd lost my mom. So I'm certainly not going to have that when it literally is just a normal bodily change. This is just. So I really did a lot of research into kind of how I could help myself. And so there was lots of different things that I did, for improving my own health and what have you. But again, I pull on, my NLP really from the anxiety point of view. So I did a lot more. I even, to the point, I recorded myself doing, some of the timeline therapy techniques, specifically for anxiety, recorded that so that I could play that through, and did the other things like mindfulness, which again is very aligned with NLP, quieting the mind down. So absolutely, for me, it was a combination of things as well, but NLP was at the fore again.
And what, I know we'll come back to the NLP and confidence stuff. What other stuff did you do as well because you said it was a combination of things. Like if you summarize like the three main things that had the biggest impact on alleviating those symptoms of getting through.
I actually started taking supplements.
Yeah.
So I was taking things here. So magnesium. Yeah. I started taking magnesium, and I've always done things like the green juices. So I made sure again that my juices were right. So from a diet point of view, and actually I think the other key thing then was that the meditation space. So actually it wasn't something that I was doing it sporadic. I do it sporadically, but I made it a core that actually meditation, and specifically for things like anxiety, were really core. And actually I went on HRT as well in November last year.
There's no shame in that. That's an important aspect of it as well.
Yeah. So I did start that.
So a combination of things. And I think you've got to, from my experience of, again, I obviously haven't gone through menopause, but I work with lots of clients who have, it's not one thing that's the solution, it's a number of things.
Yeah. And it's absolutely, and I think you're right there about, I almost felt myself kind of being, oh gosh, I've gone on HRT again. And we need to break that kind of stigma, about it, really, because it is, I think it's now something that is becoming so much more, out there to talk about.
And I think people feel like, and this is another sort of belief, I guess, they feel like they're giving in or they're weak.
That's exactly how I was.
Yeah. So how did you turn that around with NLP then?
Yeah, well, do you know what it did take? That was the biggest struggle, because I was embarrassed to talk about it. I mean, when I did the video that you're talking about, that was me going, holding my hands up here. I've been hiding this.
Yeah.
And it was that realization that actually it's not something to hide, and get out and do that, so yeah, I did do some of my, use my own medicine, if you like, go back and, but I was berating myself, I'll be honest. At first I was kind of like, yeah, I know this stuff, I should be doing this, and using the should word, rather than actually just, it's okay, this is something that's happening, it's a normal change. And then I was able to start putting in my things, but at first I was very resistant.
And do you find that that's just an example of like that mindset, I guess, of like resistance? Do you find that as part of the process you take people through, is there, because I wrote a note down earlier, I wrote fear down. I think from when I speak to people, coaching, right, we coach on health and fitness, we help people lose weight, but it always goes into the bigger picture of career and things like this. And there's a lot of fear about kind of opening that box, you said, like Pandora's box of the emotions you can put down or or kind of taking that step forward? Like, how does it help you get past that fear, or how would you recommend people do that?
Yeah, and absolutely. And fear is the biggest thing. Fear and self-doubt, I always think, and they are fed from each other. And I think one of the key parts that I talk about within NLP and coaching generally is that actually we're always going to have fear. And again, there it's understanding what's happening within our brain when this is going on. And when you know that actually fear really is just our own natural kind of survival instinct, it was there to keep us safe going back years and years, and actually then just saying, acknowledging it, that it's me stepping out of my comfort zone. And so that's one of the things that I really sort of stress to people, is that actually it's a great sign. If you've got fear, it's actually a really good sign that actually there's something that maybe you've been wanting to go after, but you're fearful of it, and it's your brain actually just trying to hold you back. And once you know that it's actually just a natural reaction, it's not anything to really be afraid of. And I like to kind of use the analogy there of, like, say you're bringing fear along in the car with you. So you go, it's there for the journey for you. You might allow it to kind of play with the sat nav or play with the radio in the car, but you just never let it take the driving seat. You don't let it take the steering wheel. And I think that, that kind of helps to know that every sort of leader, every, professional, anybody at the top of their game still has fear, still has that whole fear. And it's up to us to then start just reframe it a little bit with ourselves. Because again, it's one of those, otherwise, if you let fear take hold and take the steering wheel, then in a year's time, you'll be in exactly the same place. And I think that's the bit there, when people then know that. And what I sort of help people, I suppose, to understand there, is it is, again, it's a natural thing, and not to be afraid of it. And we can easily reframe it to be excitement. Bruce Springsteen is a great example of he going, he used to be absolutely completely fearful going on the stage, but actually now he goes, the butterflies and the excitement is that way. So he reframes it in that way. And that's what I'd encourage other people to do. But it's a great thing to understand why we're doing that. Why are we doing that? Why are we getting the kind of the results that we're getting? Why is that fear coming up? And then we can actually start changing it.
It's making me think we have to get you to come along to one of our events and run a workshop on this, because it's what we tend to do when we run retreats and things, is get deeper into this stuff. But
yeah,
our expertise in health and fitness, but it doesn't seem to be, everyone has something that's holding them back in some aspect of their life due to that fear, right? And if you can accept that it's going to be there, it makes a big difference. So if we look at like a typical training then, or like an NLP masterclass coming up, like what, first of all, who would you say it's for?
Yeah, I mean, this is open to to all ladies, in whether they're in all aspects of their life and whatever they want it for. It's particularly useful for people that do want to maybe climb the ladder, enhance their career. They've got a particular goal around their health, their fitness, or in their relationships, in family life, because again, it's all about getting a win-win situation, improving your communication, or your confidence, self-belief, to grow in what area of your life you want to set that goal for.
And what would a typical, actually I don't know how long it lasts, how long is a typical?
Yeah, so I'm actually doing a free masterclass on Tuesday.
Right. Yeah.
And within that, in this free masterclass, it's 90 minutes, and it's all about NLP techniques, what NLP is, the basics of it, again, how our mind works, our beliefs, building your confidence and self-belief to really sort of get the results that you want. So that's it's 90 minutes, and I'm finishing off with a timeline therapy demonstration there. So whoever's there, I will be picking a random person, whoever wants to be the volunteer for doing that, that I will actually do that timeline therapy session on that day. So if anybody has got any, negative emotions or limiting beliefs that they want to get rid of, I'll be doing that on in that masterclass. And actually then, that's just the introduction. That's an introduction session to give you the basics and the foundations. And if you've then got the desire to go, do you know what, I'd actually really like to do the same course that I did when I sort of started my journey, I've got that coming up as well in May. So it's the full NLP practitioner, and that's a qualification. You get 3 certifications with that one, including NLP coaching too.
Amazing. And that's a great opportunity. We'll drop a link to the free masterclass
Fabulous.
Below the video when we upload this and onto the podcast page. That's the full certification. That sounds great, because I imagine you can use that for career as well. And like you did, absolutely, you can probably package it up. This is how I tend to find I do things. I'm doing this thing for work because it's easy to justify the financial investment, and then you realize it helps everything else as well. And it all falls out of that. And actually, just to kind of add another little bit to the story, there is that when I did the NLP practitioner, I then went on to the NLP master practitioner, and it was at that point there that literally I set my goals to become a HR director. When I was on that course, that was my main specific. So I was head of HR at the time. I did the master practitioner. Within 4 weeks, I'd literally got my dream job. So as HR director, I set, I'd sort of said my goal is to, I want a 6-figure salary. I want to have an office. I want to recruit 3 staff straight away. I kind of did all of that. And literally within 4 weeks, that's the job I got offered, and started it within 6 months. Wow. I mean, that's a pretty good.
And so it literally was, so this stuff really works. It has really dramatic results. I was just an example of what you can do with it.
And if someone did want to do the full course, then how long does that take? Like, is it a weekend? Is it in the week?
Yeah, so I've actually got, I'm actually starting the online version of it in May, so that it's open to anybody there. They're not restricted by, work or, or location. So I start that one. It's a 12 weeks of weekly training. It's on the evening with practical sessions as well. And they've got the option then to actually upgrade to the live version, which is in September, which will be based in Solihull in the West Midlands.
Okay, awesome. I'll drop links to all of that below. Where can people go then if they want to find out more? Like, I'll obviously put the links here, but where's the best place to find out more about you, Suzanne, and everything you do?
Yeah, and I'm really open to anybody if they want, if they want to DM me as well. I'm really very open to doing that. If people just want to know a little bit more, happy to have a chat with anyone too. So you can get me on Facebook, Suzanne James, or Suzanne James Global is my business page. I've got a Facebook group, and I'm on Instagram as well as Suzanne James Global.
Awesome. So go and follow Suzanne. Give her a DM if you do have any specific questions. Thanks so much for joining me today and sharing.
It's been wonderful. Story. Thank you.
And thank you for being candid. I know I asked a couple of challenging questions, but you answered them amazingly. So go and check out Suzanne. Go and check out her course on NLP. It can be life-changing, as we talked about today. And we'll have to have you back again at some point, because I know there's loads more So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you, Rob.
Bye for now.
See you.